We've now reached the moment in this ceremony when we honor an extraordinary individual whose life's work has advanced the cause of education while upholding TC's core mission to foster excellence and equity in the fields we serve. This year, we honor 4 preeminent scholars and practitioners: Thomas Frieden, Chris Gutierrez, Susan Fiske, and Sandra Jackson-Dumont. I'm pleased to welcome TC Professor George Gushue, joined by Provost Thomas James, to introduce Susan Fiske. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'd like to invite the recipient of the TC Medal for Distinguished Service, Susan Fiske, to join Provost James and me at the podium. Susan T. Fiske, in introducing the first edition of your seminal text, Social Cognition, the psychologist Philip Zimbardo singled you out for extending the boundaries of traditional psychology into realms vital to contributing to solutions for real-world problems. Indeed, you have transformed both academic and public discourse on prejudice, stereotyping, discrimination, and other aspects of human judgment and perception. You have redefined the vocabulary of social psychology by introducing concepts such as ambivalent sexism, cognitive miser, stereotype content model, and power as control theory. Recently, you have characterized the intersection of social perception and affect as envy up and scorn down. These contributions have enlarged society's understanding of the many forces at play in biases such as sexism, demonstrating, for example, how so-called benevolent sexism, the idealizing and protection of women, can be just as damaging as its more hostile and explicit counterpart. You have revealed that the same cognitive shortcuts that help people to economize energy in the face of potential information overload can also amplify prejudice. Your stereotype content model has focused attention on the interplay of perceptions about a given social group status in terms of power and competition for resources, and whether that group is seen as benevolent or threatening. You have also suggested how these same stereotype content-based prejudices might be interrupted. Fittingly, you were the first social psychologist to testify before the United States Supreme Court in a gender discrimination case. More recently, you have examined the neuropsychological systems involved in the formation of impressions, stereotyping, and hostility between different groups. And social cognition remains the undisputed Bible of the field for students around the world. Even your title at Princeton, Eugene Higgins Professor of Psychology and Public Affairs, underscores your impact as one of the preeminent psychologists of this or any era.
Susan T. Fiske, for creating a better understanding of human frailties and promoting more positive attitudes and relationships, for nurturing generations of researchers at the Princeton laboratory that bears your name, and for redefining and reinvigorating social psychology itself. We proudly present you with the Teachers College Medal for Distinguished Service.
Well, I'm deeply, deeply honored. And it's particularly nice that I get to wear my academic robe. And I think the graduates are discovering the advantages of an academic robe. You could be wearing your pajamas underneath it, right? Or the most fancy dress it could be. And I actually kind of like the concept of an academic robe because it's very equalizing. You know, it's about your head, not about anything below your neck, because that's all covered up. So I'm thinking, you know, maybe we should wear them more often. They, by the way, if you invested in yours, they make good bathrobes. So congratulations on wearing an academic robe and soon on being hooded. I like the terminology that the doctoral degree is the supreme degree, and it recognizes your expertise that you have developed since entering, whatever your specialty area may be in arts and humanities, biobehavioral sciences, international and transcultural studies, organization and leadership, or a dozen others. Welcome to the Society of Scholars and Practitioners. It's a big accomplishment. So such success is wonderful, and I'm sure that you will be celebrating it this afternoon. But I'm here to tell you a story about failure and obstacles, which are also real. I'm not trying to rain on your parade, but I want to give you advice, because that's what I'm supposed to do as a graduation speaker, I think. How you metabolize failure shows your grit and resilience. Anybody can deal with success, that's easy, but all of us face obstacles, and that's the key, what you do with those obstacles. So the story I'm going to tell you is about a hardworking young woman who got her PhD at a time when there were few women role models in her department and only one ethnic minority. But she worked with an inspiring female role model and was very motivated to put her expertise to work when she finished. Her first job was not in her favorite location. She didn't have a lot of local friends, but there were generous terms conducive to get her work done. She worked hard, played by the rules, did her teaching, her research, her university service, and a book. She did some public service too, and developed a budding national reputation. At a pre-tenure evaluation several years later, she was fired. She was given a special terminal promotion, whatever that is. Basically, the message was, you can have a couple years, but please leave as soon as possible. She was blindsided and shocked and unprepared for this. What do I do now? No plans to move, but I guess now there were. Bad for the relationship. A professional crisis, humiliating locally, embarrassing nationally. What do you do when your colleagues find out? Do you give up? Do you change careers? What do you do? Well, it was a turning point, personally. She didn't want to do anything else. She wasn't trained to do anything else. She had a passion for the field and its impact. So what next? Metabolizing failure required getting back on the horse. It required going to national meetings with people who might be talking about you behind your back. It was the biggest transformation in my career, but it renewed my commitment, and it made me realize that success requires both competence and warmth. People have to both respect and like you. So I engaged in revenge productivity. That's the bottom line, you have to produce things. But also it reminded me to pay attention to professional relationships and not be naive, not to neglect the politics of professional life. People have to want to live with you. If they're going to give you tenure, they're making a commitment to live with you for the rest of your professional life. But it also reminded me that service, while important, is not portable. We all want to give back. That's why you guys are at TC. But women and minorities get over-invited to do service. And so don't be a chump. Do what you want to do and what you can do well, but don't do absolutely everything that is asked of you if you're being asked to do more than other people. But the bottom line is to do what you love. There's a lot of perseverance required in getting a doctorate degree, and you do it because there's no alternative, because this is really, really what you wanted to do. And you tolerated the first year irritants. People often choose careers whose entry-level annoyances they can tolerate, because then you can go on to do what you really want to do, and at the end of the day, it's rewarding. So the moral of my story is that metabolizing failure, what you do with the inevitable obstacles and failures that you hit, determines the success of your career and your personal life as well. Stuff happens. So on this wonderful day, I'm reminding you that there will be setbacks, and anyone can deal with smooth sailing. Most people can handle success pretty well, but it's how you handle failure that shows your real grit. Psychologist Carol Dweck reminded people that there are different mindsets for dealing with academia, among other things. And interestingly, it's people's parents' belief about what failure means that affects them as children, how they deal with failure. So some parents believe that failure is a confirmation of inadequacy. Other parents believe it's an opportunity for growth. So how you handle failure depends on this kind of mindset that you bring to these obstacles that are inevitable. And my own advice, as I've implied, is that there are two dimensions to a career. One is competence and agency and ability, of course, but also warmth and friendliness and trustworthiness, showing your colleagues that you have worthy intentions. And because I study stereotyping, I have to say that there are different kinds of obstacles that different kinds of people are likely to face. Let me tell you about two traps briefly. One trap is being seen as competent but cold. This tends to target career women, Asians, Jews, enterprising outsiders in any given society. So these folks have to show their cooperative intent. The second kind of stereotype trap is being seen as warm but incompetent. So traditional female roles are often seen this way. Older people and people with disabilities often face this kind of stereotype. So these folks have to work on earning respect for their status and competence. Okay, so enough of all this bad news. Educators are among the most admired occupations in our country, both respected and liked. And this is really important, and you should keep that, hold that, because nobody else is as respected and liked. Go forth and be successful. Be bold. But when stuff happens, know the traps. Use the setbacks as challenges, opportunities for growth, and cherish your work. Thank you.